We saw that the dev tools gave us access to the HTML of a web page, but we need a little more vocabulary to make our lives easier as we start creating these web pages from scratch. Our HTML documents follow a tree structure. Trees are a way of hierarchically organizing data. A common example would be your family tree. In this example we have you on top, of course, your children, and then your grandchildren. You might also hear these tree structures called tree diagrams or tree models. Trees start with a single data point we call the root. We refer to each of our pieces of data in the tree as a node, and this includes the root, so the root is also a node. Every node can have a parent node and multiple child nodes except for the root, which cannot have a parent. The connections between the nodes are called branches, and nodes that share the same parent are called siblings. If we follow branches past a node's parent to another level towards the root, we call those nodes ancestors no matter how many levels up we go. And if we follow branches away from the root, past the first child, we call those nodes descendants no matter how many levels down we go. Finally, the nodes on the level furthest from the root are often called leaf nodes. So you can think of this tree structure kind of like a real tree that grows outside in the dirt, but turned upside down when we draw it. I did say these tree structures related to our HTML, so here's how. Our entire HTML document can be thought of as a tree. There will be one root level element, and this is always the HTML element. I'm not talking about all HTML elements in general right now. Literally, our root element is an element with tags that say the letters H, T, M, and L inside of the arrows. If we look in our browser DevTools, we can see an example of that. I'm on zombo.com again. I'm going to go ahead and open up my DevTools. And if we take a look in the Elements tab, we can see the outermost element is an HTML element, meaning it literally has the letters inside of it, H, T, M, and L. Inside of that root level element, we always have a head element and a body element. These two are also required. However, if you forget them, most modern browsers will just dump all of your HTML into a body element for you and add a generic head element above it. That's why our HTML example in Replit has been working even though we never added a head element or body element ourselves. We'll learn about the head and body elements in detail in the next lessons. Each of those elements can contain many other nested elements, which can be nested multiple levels down. So our entire HTML document is a tree. If you start Googling HTML trees, you might hear people call it the DOM or the DOM tree. That's DOM spelled D-O-M, and it's short for Document Object Model. The DOM is really our entire HTML tree plus a bunch of other cool extra stuff, but we can't really dive into it until we learn about JavaScript in the next unit. For now, whenever you hear DOM or DOM tree, you can think of it as just our HTML tree. And later on, we'll learn about the extra additional stuff. Additionally, on pretty much every single web page that you inspect with the browser's developer tools, you'll see a DOCTYPE. The DOCTYPE looks kind of like an HTML tag or void element, but it's officially called a preamble in the HTML specification. It's supposed to be on all web pages to prevent browsers switching into an older mode called quirks mode. What is quirks mode? Well, a long time ago there was no standard for web pages, so web pages used to be written in two different versions for the two popular browsers of the time, one for Netscape Navigator and one for Internet Explorer. This was annoying, and eventually some web standards were agreed upon by everyone. That way we didn't have to keep writing multiple different versions of the exact same web page. However, to avoid breaking the already existing websites, the DOCTYPE preamble was invented. If the web browser saw the DOCTYPE preamble, it would use the newly agreed upon web standards that everyone uses nowadays. If the DOCTYPE preamble was missing, the browser would use quirks mode, which was a compatibility mode for old, non-standard websites. So from now on, we'll always have the DOCTYPE preamble in our HTML documents when we make them together. It will always start with a left arrow followed by an exclamation point, the word DOCTYPE in all uppercase, a space, the word HTML in all lowercase, and a right arrow. There is additional information you can put inside the preamble after the word HTML, but we won't use that in this course. Alright, let's practice our new knowledge of tree structures before moving on to the next lesson. Please open up zombo.com if you haven't already, and let's find the root HTML element in our developer tools. Now, what are the two children of the root HTML element. That would be the head and the body. We would call the head and the body siblings. The body has children. Those children are also siblings of each other. If we take a look at this button element, its parent would be the body, and its ancestor would be the HTML element. Similarly, if we started from the HTML element, its child would be the body, and then we wouldn't say grandchild for button. People would understand you if you said grandchild, but we would really call it the descendant element because it's more than one level down. Finally, way up here at the top, notice that there is a doc type.